Pound today.
All right. Do this.
And
you're on.
Good morning, everybody. So today's Daf Mem Vav, I believe. Once again, I don't look at a calendar. I just do the next blot. So we actually left off in the bottom of Mem Hamad Beis. So we were discussing Rabbi Shimon's opinion regarding Muksa. And we came to a point where there was a difference of opinion. We wanted to prove that they held like Rabbi Huda, not like Rabbi Shimon. He said no, that menorah that was placed upon someone's cloak, right, someone's garment, right, that was a menorah, a larger menorah that's carried with two hands, and that is according to everybody, even Rabbi Shimon, not only Rabbi Huda, even according to Rabbi Shimon, even after the fire goes out. It is still muksa. So the question is why? Why is that muksa? What's the reason for that? So tamamai. So 3 lines from the bottom on Mem Hamad Beis, the time of Mai. So Rabbi Rav Yosef, since a person has a designated place for it to go, in other words, he doesn't plan on moving it, and it's supposed to be it's a large menorah, and he doesn't move it around. So therefore, he doesn't move it. It's set in that place. Therefore, it's muksa to move it from there. So Gemara says, Amar le by Rav Yosef, vare kilas chasanim. What about a kilas chasanim? Kilas chasanim is like a sort of a tent, sort of like with a teepee roof. It's not exactly an ohel, which is a flat roof, but rather kilas chasanim is something that's like a teepee tent, which I think, right, or a slanted tent. I don't know. So that's teepee is more like rounded, right? Anyway, so you say. So I'm really by the Rabbi Yosef. A person knows that kilas chasanim has one designated space, like a tent. Amar Shmuel Mishum Rabbi Chia kilas chasanim mutar l'nentaisa u'mutar leparka b'Shabbos. So you're allowed to go ahead and move it. You're allowed to go ahead and build it and take it down on Shabbos. So there is no problem of baina. There is no problem of seiser because the roof is not your typical ohel, and therefore you're allowed to go ahead and build it and take it down and move it. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? It's kaveh makom. Isn't kaveh makom the whole problem with this? So Elam Rabbi says, no. Okay, scratch that kaveh makom. Different reason. What is the reason why Rabbi Shimon holds that a menorah, right, a large menorah is muksa? Because it's made of parts. It's made of parts. If it falls apart, then he might go ahead and fix it up again. And it turns out he's building a kli. So where says Ihach, my time with Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Deshar. What's the reason for Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish who matters a smaller one if it's made of parts? So my chulios, what does it mean over there? As parts kein chulios. It looks like, right, it has parts. These be chidaki, right? It has like grooves in it, it has lines in it that looks like it's buildable, looks like you could do it. And therefore, in other words, something with grooves. So since it does, you don't really necessarily have to go ahead and build it. The question is there a gzeira there? In other words, if it's you just say, okay, it's one part, it can't fall apart, so therefore there's no problem. It's not muksa because you can't rebuild. It's designed to rebuild. But if you say there is a gzeira, then maybe if it has grooves, it potentially could be aser. Why? Because a person sees that and says, oh, I saw someone moving a menorah that was made of parts. But really, that menorah was not made of parts. That menorah was really just grooved, and it looked like it was made of different parts. It was really one solid piece, and therefore there was no issue of building a kli. So hilkach, therefore, chulio ben gedol ben katana. If it's made of pieces, whether it's large or small, we say over there, asur l'tal, it's asur to go ahead and move it. It's muksa. Gedola, and even if it's large, nami is bechidaki. If it's large and it has cracks in it, gzeira to gedola the chuliyos. Therefore, it's a gzeira in that one because it has grooves in it. It looks like one, perhaps it's made of parts. So therefore, that is usher because a person might confuse that with something else, which is large and made of parts. That is muksa. However, ki pligi, what is the machlokes? Bektana, with a small menorah, the is bechidaki, a small menorah that has cracks. Marsav Gazrina one holds we say no, you can't even use a small one with cracks because you might use a large one with cracks. So Marsav Gazrina would say no because it's so small, and if it's that small that it's not made of parts, it's only grooved. So therefore there is no reason to make such a gzeira on a case of a small menorah. Fine. So umi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi, and does Rabbi Yochanan say this? Does Rabbi Yochanan say the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, right? Rabbi Yochanan already established that halacha is like a stam mishnah. Okay, now in Tanah we learn in the Mishnah, right? We said this earlier in a case of a wagon, right? A case of a wagon that a case of a wagon that with the wheels were not attached to the wagon being pulled, right? In other words, there's two separate parts between the wheels and the wagon it's pulling. And we said, we mentioned a couple of blot ago, different halachas, right? So we said over there, if it's detachable, ein chibur law, it's not considered attached to it. In other words, if let's say the wagon becomes tummy, then the wheels are not. And also if it's too large, we said something has to be a cleat to become tummy if it's too large. In other words, it's 40 saw, it would displace 40 saw if placed in water. So since it's detachable, the wheels, you would not include the wheels with the wagon in terms of measurement. And also it doesn't work together with the bottom of the wagon in order to save the stuff on the wagon from tumas mace to be an oihel. So right, those are separate halachas. Now the halacha for us. It says this Stam Mishnah that you can't go ahead and touch and move this wheel on Shabbos if there's money on it. So it sounds like as this. Sharia, but it sounds like if there was no money on it, then it'll be mutter. The afa gav dahavi le ben hashmashos, even though it was on earlier during ben hashmashos. So now we have a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda holds this. If something is holding muksa items all of ben hashmashos, so that's muksa all of Shabbos. According to Rabbi Shimon, even though if the stuff falls off, it's no longer muksa, right? We don't say hoel v'ktasol b'hashmashos luksa kol Shabbos kula, right? So over here it seems to say like only when it's on it, but not when it's off it, which is like Rabbi Shimon. So we see over here the Stam Mishnah sounds like Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda. So how could you say if Rabbi Yochanan holds like a Stam Mishnah, right? How can you say he holds like Rabbi Yehuda if we see the Stam Mishnah holds like Rabbi Shimon? So Rabbi Zera, no, even Rabbi Yehuda would agree to this. It's not Rabbi Shimon. It's not a machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore this case is stamish like Rabbi Shimon. Rather, Kuli Alma agrees because according to Rabbi Yehuda, if you just have something which was muksa on it, right, but it wasn't ben hashmashos, so it doesn't make it muksa for the rest of Shabbos, right? Only if it's muksa at the onset of Shabbos. But let's say you have money fall on the wheel, right, at 9 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, and then it falls off, and the wind blows it away. So at 10 o'clock, it's not muksa, right? So everyone agrees that that's not muksa. So that's the case. And if the money was on it before, and it was just not ben hashmashos, but it was on, let's say, in the morning. So later on, it's not muksa. In order to not contradict the words of Rabbi Yochanan, therefore we say that the money was not on it throughout, or right, the most was not on it throughout the ben hashmashos, and therefore Kuli Alma agrees it's not machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Shimon Levi Pamachas Halach Rabbi Le Duspera. So one time, Rebbe went to the Dispara, and it says over there, Rebbe ruled in menorah like Rabbi Shimon when it comes to a candle. So the Kumar was not unclear as to what he meant. So he boilu. Does he mean that he paskin in the case of a menorah, right? Of basically a grooved menorah that we discussed earlier, like Rabbi Shimon, who holds by a nair, which is heter. In other words, he said that a case of a grooved menorah that is not muksa, just like Rabbi Shimon would rule a case of a lamp where the fire went out. Or Dilma, or perhaps Hayra b'menorah le'isura, Rabbi Shimon b'ner lehetera. Maybe he means like this. He made there's two separate halachas. One is he made a halachic ruling by menorah le'isura. In other words, he said a menorah le'isura that even though since it was on, even afterwards, right, since there's grooves in it, it looks like a person might go ahead and take apart, other menorahs, or use other menorahs that come in pieces. So therefore, we do not allow you to go ahead and use a groove menorah. And that was the case of Yisura. Rabbi Shimon ben Ner. Then he ruled when it came to a candle, came to a case of a case of a candle. He ruled like Rabbi Shimon that once it goes out, that it's no longer muksa anymore. And that Torah. So the Gemara doesn't answer as to what exactly Rebbe's psak was in Diuspora. So Malkia Ikla Lebei Rabbi Simloi, the Titel Shraga. So one time Rav Malkia was by the yeshiva or the house of Rabbi Simloi, and he moved a candle after it went out. Vikbid Rabbi Simloi and Rabbi Yisrael got angry. So obviously Rabbi Simloi held like Rabbi Huda, and Rav Malkia held like Rabbi Shimon. And furthermore, Rabbi Yossi Glili Asrei Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina. One time Rabbi Yossi Glili was over there in the place in the Makom of Rabbi Yossi Chanina until the Shrag, and he went ahead and he moved the candle after it went out. Rabbi Yossi Chanina got upset because he held like Rabbi Huda, and his visitor held like Rabbi Shimon. And Rabbi Voki the Asrei Rabbi Shimon Levi. Rabbi Vo was by the place of Rabbi Shimon Levi. He also moved a candle. However, Kigla Asr de Rabbi Yechon, went into the place of Rabbi Yechon. Lo have metalto shraga. He would not move a candle. Now we know, but here we learned yesterday was actually machlekas as to what Rabbi Shimon Levi said the halacha was. So he said that Rabbi Shimon Levi said the halacha was like Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Yochanan said the halacha was like Rabbi Yehuda. So in the place of Rabbi Yeshua Levi, he was makil. He after the fire went out, he would move it just like Rabbi Shimon. And in the place of Rabbi Yochanan, he wouldn't touch the candle even after it went out because he would hold like Rabbi Yehuda. So Gemara says, "Manash, I understand. Ik Rabbi Yehuda Svirlei, Lavik Rabbi Yehuda, and Ik Rabbi Shimon Svirlei, Liavik Rabbi Shimon." I understand. Let him hold like this. Let him be consistent. If he holds like Rabbi Shimon, let him always touch a candle after it goes out. If he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, let him never touch it even after it goes out. So when I answer Rabbi Shimon Svirlei, really holds like Rabbi Shimon and he's Mako. So if that's the question, why didn't he touch the candle over there by Rabbi Yochanan after it went out? And Svirlei Mishum the Kvoid of Rabbi Yochanan who Deloy Havi Avid. But however, because of the honor he wanted to show the Rabbi Yochanan, therefore he didn't go ahead and was not Mako like Rabbi Shimon in his presence because he knew that Rabbi Yochanan held like Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore he held like Rabbi Yehuda in when he was in the place of Rabbi Yochanan. And Amar Rabbi so Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Shraga the Mishcha Shari Lataltla. If you have a candle that from oil, then it's mutter Lataltla after it goes out. It's no problem after it goes out because it's not considered to be most. It's not considered to be disgusting because it's an oil candle. However, skip line. The nafta, but if it was made of nafta, asla talta, but made of nafta, then it would be usher to be metaltalit. If it's usher, so basically the nafta is it smells. I guess when it burns, it's very very stinky, and therefore the kli stinks, and therefore it's really there's no use for it even afterwards because it's a very foul odor, and you don't want to use it for anything. So since it's not usable for anything, it'll be it's usher to use. And Rabbi Rav Yosef nafta namish. So he says, and Rav Yosef says, no. They said that in the case of Rabbi Rav Yosef will say that nafta is also permitted to move it. So Rav Avia equal the Bei Rabba. So now we're going to get to a reason why that is. So Rav Avia equal the Bei Rava. One time Rav Avia was in the house of Rava. So Havi Masin Beikare Betina. I guess he had mud on his shoes. And a Sabi Apuria Kame, the Rav. And then he went ahead and he sat with his dirty shoes on Rava's bed in front of Rava. So Ikpid Rava got upset, right? He's dirtying it up. So he says, Ikpid Rava. So boy, let's see. He wanted to bother him. Obviously, he wasn't going to bother him by attacking him and yelling at him. He was going to bother him. Perhaps, I'll ask him a kasha and I'll basically upset him by him not knowing, what I'm going to ask him. So I'm like, my time, Rabbi Rav Yosef, what's the reason why Rabbi and Rav Yosef both hold that a nafta candle, a nafta fire, and even despite the fact that it stinks and there is no use for it after Shabbat or after the light goes out, the candle goes out, why is it not muksa? Why is it not muksa? Even according to Rabbi Shimon, it should be muksa because there's completely no use for it. So I'm like, since you are still able to use it, right? You can go ahead and cover something else with it. You can cover a kli with it. Since it's usable to cover something else, there is a use for it, despite the fact that it stinks. You might not be able to use it for something like that, but you can use it to cover up things. Okay, so all the stones that I have in my yard should not be muksa because those I can go ahead and use it to cover up something. Why is that any different than a stone? It's different because in the case of the nafta candle, despite the fact that it stinks and you really don't want to use it, it still is a kli, it still is a vessel. And therefore, since it's a vessel, you can use it to cover up things, and therefore it's not considered muksa. However, a rock, since it's not considered a kli, it's not considered a vessel, therefore it's not taras kli, it doesn't have a shame kli, and therefore it cannot be used, you can't say, it's not muksa, because it could be used to cover up another utensil. So milotanin is approved, and we now learn in Brisa, hashirim, v'hanizamim v'atabos harei hen kechol hakelim hanitlim b'chatzer. Right, you have nose rings, all right, and bracelets and rings. Those are like all the other utensils they can use on Shabbos in the chatzer. V'amula, and says ula matam, what's the reason? Hovikatar is clear. Since it's considered a kli, it's considered a utensil. So it's different. Since it's the utensil, it's not considered to be muksa. And so Hachanami, so to over here, by the case of the smelly nafta, Since the Torah is clear, therefore is not considered to be muksa, despite the fact you won't use it to store anything, but you can still use it to cover up things. And Amar, so we're on the top of Mem Vav Amud Beis, 4 lines in the top. Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Baruch Rachmana Deloich Sife Rava Rav Avia. He says, yes. So says Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Baruch Hashem, that Rava did not go ahead and just yell at Rav Avia, hey, you're stinking, shoes off my bed, because we never would have got to the bottom of the reason of Rabbi Rav Yosef why the hell is mutter, and he also brought this brisa as a proof, and therefore it was good that he spoke and learned with them. So Ramile Abaye Larava. So Abaye he took these 2 brises to contradict one another as a kasha. Tanya, one brise it says, "Ma'isa shemen shebener shebekara aser." Rabbi Shimon Matir. So it says the leftover oil in a candle or from a bowl is aser, right? According to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon Matir. Rabbi Shimon says the oil afterwards. And if you have candle and oil, and then the fire goes out, like we said earlier. Once the fire goes out, then the leftover oil is mutter for usage, according to Rabbi Shimon. Alma, what do you see over there? Rabbi Shimon, lastly, muksa. According to Rabbi Shimon, there is no muksa, right? In other words, as long as the candle is not lit, right? Because then if you go ahead and take the oil, we worry you'll be extinguishing the fire. So as long as the candle is not lit, the fire goes out, you can take out the leftover oil. So we see that there's no muksa by Rabbi Shimon. We have a rule by the halacha by a bechor is a firstborn animal, right? Which is a bechor, right? Is a male firstborn, is given to the kohanim, is offered as a korban. Now, this only applies to animals that are not a balmum, right? They are not a balmum. They don't have any blemishes. If it has a blemish, then then it's not offered. So now, an animal, right, so if an animal has now you're only allowed to offer on Yontif to offer karbanos, you can go ahead and shech karbanos. However, which karbanos do you do? So let's say you have a bechor, so a bechor without a mum, if it's a tam, it has without any sort of mum, it's not. You can't go ahead and shech that on Shabbos because there's no mum. So now let's say you have an animal, and before Yontif, there was no blemish on it. So it wasn't prepared. It wasn't set to already go ahead and shecht it on Yontif. Why? Because it already wasn't designated to shecht, right? So it says Rabbi Shimon, as long as it wasn't recognizable, and when we say recognizable, it means that it was shown to a mumcha, an expert in mumin, right? And that expert goes ahead and he says, this is a balmum, this is a mum kavua, and therefore this animal can no longer be offered, right? This animal can no longer be offered to a kohen. So since the animal has a blemish, it's no longer offered to a kohen. So now, kol shein muma nikar rev yantif ein ze mina muchan, right? It's not considered to be mina muchan. It's not considered to be prepared. In Haki Hash, the Gemara says, what do you mean? Hasam Adam Yoshev Mitzapa Lakanera. So in other words, so what's the thing over here? So we see that it's not mina muchan. So we see, according to Rabbi Shimon, he holds that something has to be prepared for Yontif. In other words, there is muksa. So the Gemara says, how can you compare? Over there in the case, a person can sit and he waits for the candle to go out. So Hasam Adam Yoshev Mitzapa over there he waits for in terms of the side. Okay, when is my candle going to go out? He knows it's going to go out. He knows it's going to go out, and therefore he knows it's usable, right, for him afterwards. However, Hachabit over here, Adam Yeshem Tzapim Masa Yipo Bomum, whereas is a person going to wait till the blemish falls on the animal? In other words, the animal really is supposed to go to the Kohen. So how do I know whether or not there's going to be a mum kavu and I can keep it? I don't know. It's not a fact of waiting. If I put oil in, I know the way nature works is the oil is going to burn out in 5-6 hours, depending on whatever it is, the amount of oil put in, right? But with an animal, it might never develop a mum. So if that's the case, it doesn't develop a mum. How could you say he had in mind for this animal to be prepared for him and Yontif to use it? That's not muksa, right? It's obviously something that was out of his mind, so it wasn't prepared. So you can't compare the cases. In the case of the oil, according to Rabbi Shimon, there was no muksa because he does anticipate at some point to use the leftover oil or the oil once it burns out. But in the case of the animal, he doesn't have, he can't foresee it all of a sudden developing a mum and to say, I was going to use it on Yontif. How are you going to use it on Yontif? It might not develop the mum for many years. And so maybe he says in this case, who says right? So, and even if you say Meimar, and even if you say it's going to fall Mum, if you say a Mum does fall, and who says a Mum Kavua? There are certain blemishes that are temporary, and those will not pass on the animal. Those animals can still be offered and given to the Kohanim. And there's a permanent one, and those are the ones that make the animal considered to be a Balmum. Who said he's going to ever find a Chacham, right? An expert to go ahead and Paskin says this is a Mum Kavua. So Meisiv Rami Rechama, Rami Rechama as a kasha. Meifir Nidarim b'Shabbos and Shalom Nidarim Shein L'Tzarech Shabbos. One is allowed to go ahead and is to be Meifir Neder. Now, a husband is Meifir Neder when it comes to a Nidarim. So a woman who makes Nidarim, right? So her husband, right? Those are subject to her husband's approval, right? So subject to her husband's approval. And therefore, a woman could say, I'm never going to go ahead and, cook again. Or I'm never going to go ahead and do something that possibly could affect the marriage. And therefore, I'll never eat meat again. And the husband doesn't like it. It's not healthy, right? So the husband has the ability to go ahead and be Mayfair to nullify his wife's Nadarim. Now, this is different than Hataras Nadarim, right? You don't need to go ahead and go to a basin to do it. This is just simply when the husband hears about this Neder, he says, no, this is not going to stand. We're not going to go ahead and allow it. So that so husband can be Mayfair Neder on Shabbos. So let's say the woman says, I'm never going to, I'm not going to eat this Saturday. The husband hears, says, no, where's my own Shabbos? I want to have meals with my wife. He's made for the Neder. Or the Shabbos, or you go ahead and Mishael. Let's say a guy makes a nether and he goes ahead and he says, I was going to say I wasn't going to eat on Saturday, and now I want to have a meal with my family. So they match the nether. So all of a sudden, the food that he thought before Shabbos he wasn't going to go ahead and eat because he made a nether, all of a sudden he's allowed to go ahead and do it. But why is he able to do that? So now, why don't you say this? Before Shabbos, this food wasn't fit for him. Why? Because he had a nether standing before Shabbos, or the woman in the case of her husband, right? So this food wasn't fit for him to go ahead and partake from. So why isn't that considered to be mutter? Use the same logic we just said about the case of the Chor. Who says in the case of the woman, she's going to find her husband that he can go ahead and be made for the nether to say that she can go ahead and partake? So the Gemara says, no, husband Rav Pinchas. We say, no, over there by the wife, it's different, like Rav Pinchas. Mishmei the Rabba, the name of Rabba, Damar Rav Pinchas, Mishmei the Rabba, Kol Hanoderes, Al Das Baile Hinoderes, right? Whenever it makes a woman, it's basically only with the approval of her husband. So therefore, she knows this really, my husband's, once he hears that, I'm not going to eat on Saturday, I know he's going to be made for the nether. So therefore, she really has in mind that perhaps, his nether, would be nullified. And, and therefore that really food was considered to be prepared, because when the husband's das is, if he hears his wife going to say such a thing, he would make for it on the spot. So therefore, that food is considered to be prepared. Okay, so let's look at the latter part of the brayso. We're talking about when you go ahead and ask to have your matan nadarim, right? So tashma nishel nadarim shel tzarech haShabbos. So it says over there you can be shel nadarim the shel tzarech haShabbos, b'Shabbos and Shabbos v'yamat. Why is that? Say the same thing by Bechor. Who said he's even going to find a Chacham to go ahead and be mater his nether? Right? He needs to go ahead and find a Yachin Mumche. So the says, no, Hasam, Ilo Misagli Chacham. Over there, in the case of Hataras Nadarim, if he doesn't have a Yachin Mumche, even one person who's an expert, that normally person can go ahead and be mater nether. If you can't find a Chacham, right? Then you go ahead and find 3 regular people. You don't need a chacham, a special person, to go ahead and be matir your nadarim. Rather, you can go ahead and get 3 regular people. Just find 3 people, put them together, and say, "Hey, I made the nether, and I have charata, whatever reasons are," and then you matir your nether. So since he can do that very easily on Shabbos, therefore it's like the food that he wasn't going to eat is really prepared for Shabbos because it was very obtainable. However, in the case of Bechor, but over here is still by case of Bechor, you do need a Chacham, you need an expert to go ahead and rule that the blemish is considered to be a blemish and is a mum kavua, and therefore that is beyond one's expectations on Shabbos, and therefore in that case we said it was mukt on Shabbos because he didn't expect it to become a balmum on Shabbos. So Rami Leah by the Rav Yosef, so Abai asked Rav Yosef, Rabbi Shimon Kovsa, mutter letaltla. So I understand. According to Shimon, it says that if a candle goes out, it's mutter to move it on Shabbos. Sounds like Kovsa in, like Kovsa lo. Only if it goes out. But if it's still on, you can't move it. In other words, not only can you not take the oil, you can't even move the candle, right, while it's burning. So the question is my time. What's the reason? Perhaps that which he's moving it might go out. So the question says, oh, okay, this is Rabbi Shimon, right? So what's the big deal, according to Shimon? Hashmanli the Rabbi Shimon. We learned earlier, according to Rabbi Shimon, the Amar Davar Shem is Kavin Mutter. He holds that a Davar Shem is Kavin is Mutter. The Tanya Rabbi Shimon Aimer Garar Adam Kisei Mita V'Safsal. A person allowed to go ahead and drag a chair or a bed or a couch, and as long as he doesn't go ahead, and you're allowed to drag it in the backyard, as long as he doesn't go ahead and drag it on the make a groove in the yard, right? Because you make a groove, or it's like digging. You're not allowed to go ahead and dig, right? It's a malacha. You're planting, right? So over here, or plowing, right? So over here, so you're allowed to, so according to Rabbi Shimon, you're allowed to do it as long as you don't have kavanah to do it. So same thing, you're moving the candle, right? And moving the candle, right? You want to light the, you want to light the candle, according to Rabbi Shimon, so you want to light in the other room, so you can carry in the other room. So if it goes out, okay, I wasn't miskavin. So why is that any different? So go on to answer like this. So kol heichadechim mechavein ika isudaraisa. So now it's like rules like this. If when you have intentions to do the malacha that we're afraid you're going to do, it's going to result in issur deraisa, such as kibui, right? If you extinguish a flame, so therefore that is a deraisa. So chila mechavin gazer Rabbi Shimon. In such a case, Rabbi Shimon has a gzera. Rabbi Shimon says asur. So therefore, moving a candle, right? So which is to put out a candle, which is a deraisa. So therefore, even if it's a davar shemis kavin, we want you to avoid to do. However, but let's say the case like pulling a chair. So even if I do go ahead and pull a chair and I make a groove, so what type of isur am I over? So the truth is you're not over plowing by dragging a couch in your yard, even if I do it intentionally. Why is that? Because that's not the normal way of plowing. That's only the rabbanon, right? The normal way is you take your tractor, whatever, you pull it and you dig it up. But this is not the normal way of plowing your field, of dragging a chair or a bed in your backyard. So therefore, in this case, since it wouldn't have been a deraisa, even if it was mechavein, it was only the rabbanon. So therefore, Rabbi Shimon says it would be mutter to do it because of davar shemis kavein. Yeah.
So does Rabbi Shimon not hold the rabbanons at all?
So no. So he holds it's the rabbanon, but he as long as you don't do the rabbanon intentionally, it's okay. So if your whole reason is I want to go ahead and make holes in my yard, so I can't go ahead and pull my couch for that reason. But if I just pulling the couch in my backyard because I wanted to get from one side of my backyard to the other, even if I go ahead and accidentally make these, the grooves in the yard, it will be mutter to do, according to Rabbi Shimon.
So that's the rabbanon in any scenario, in any situation, lav dafka this situation.
Right. Any
situation that you're doing a rabbanon that you're not doing it for that specific reason, but it could cause something. Rabbi Yehuda was mafra, and he was
right. Rabbi Shimon would say davar shemis kavi, that will be mutter.
It's like doing something with the shinoi, no?
What?
Doing something with the shinoi.
Well, if you do something with the
shinoi, you actually want to do it. You want to actually get the thing
but
done.
If you move a candle with your elbow or in a not normal way, you can still come to putting it out, which the malacha of putting out is deraisa. Anyways, a couple more lines. So Meisiv Rava, okay, so you're telling me there's no gzeras in cases where it can result, where if it can result in a deraisa, so everyone hold that you can't do it, then even if you have davar shemis kavin is aser. So Meisiv Rava, so we say people, let's say, sell clothing. They sell clothing. Some of the clothing contains shatnez, right? Some of the stuff. So Meichrin Kedarka, and they can sell normal way. But actually, is Chavin Bechama, right? Right. So in order they can go ahead and sell it, even if it has shatnez in it, to put it on if you want to try something on, right? But actually, is Chavin Bechama. So let's say you want to, avoid the sun, so you can use it to cover to put it on to avoid the sun, or let's say it's raining out, and you put on the shatnez, right? And you do it, because you're getting hana, because you're not getting wet. So as long as you don't do it for the purposes of getting benefit, you're allowed to do it. No, you don't have intention to use it. But snowing and those who are machmir, mafshilan b'makal, they go ahead and hang it. They want to see how it hangs. So instead of putting on meat to see how it hangs, they just go ahead and put it on a hook on the wall. Over here, if you put it on shanis with intentions, I want to go ahead and be warm, right? It's an Isur so Ika. So Mila Machavin, so Hacha, the Chi Machavin, Isur Deraisa, Ika. So Kila Machavin, Shari, Rabbi Shimon Lechatchila. But over here, Rabbi Shimon said Lechatchila, you can go ahead and do it. So why over here did he say Lechatchila, you can go ahead and put it on as long as you don't have intentions, because it's Davar Shem is Kavin. Well, what do you mean? I thought if it can result in a Deraisa, if he was Machavin, then it should be Asmi Derabana. So Gemara says, Ella Amar Rava, so that says, Rava, no, scratch what we said before, Sehinach, right? Sehinach Lener. Forget near Shem Psila Hoyo Danasa buses the Davar Aser. So he said, no, over there, in the case of the oil, it's not because that Rabbi Shimon is not Davar Shem is Kavin. That's the reason. It's not because of Davar Shem is Kavin, rather another reason. Rather because it is holding something which is Aser. Since it's holding a fire, that's something which is, it's not just Muksa. It's holding something which is an Isser, which we'll get into tomorrow. Then that's the reason why we say it's Aser to go ahead and carry it, not because of Davar Shem is Kavin, but because rather you're holding something which is Aser and not necessarily just it's a way not to extinguish it. All right, we'll stop here. Everyone have a wonderful day. Shkoyach Randy.
Have a good one.
All right.